This is VALT, Virtualized Archaeological Landscape Toolset. It is currently a proof of concept application created using the Unreal Engine 4 games engine to provide a virtual reality interface for exploring archaeological landscape data. The application was born out of a PhD project which served to see if utilizing a games engine for an analytical tool was possible, and whether it could answer questions about the relationship between archaeological sites of differing periods. Part of the core of the project was utilizing LiDAR data to form landscapes within the games engine. At the time, the Unreal Engine did not natively support import of LiDAR data, and so a rather cumbersome system was devised to convert the landscape data into a height map which can be imported. Although version 4.25 now includes the ability to import LiDAR data and point cloud data, it cannot be edited in the same way as a height map based landscape, and so this method is still preferable. Now that this project has concluded, there are various areas that the application could be improved on and expanded into. Let's look at how the application currently works. You start in a menu level that attempts to teach you the basics of the control system. Currently, the application was set up to use the Windows Mixed Reality system, but this could easily be adjusted for other VR systems as it uses the Steam VR platform. While this static method of introducing a user to the controls works, a much better system, probably using some kind of tutorial landscape, should be in order. Three pre-made landscapes were provided for the initial version. A higher resolution but smaller landscape based around the Big Howe Broch site near Stenes in Orkney, a lower resolution but larger landscape based around the same Broch site, and a very poor resolution but much larger landscape based around the Temple of Apollo in Greece. For simplicity's sake, all of these landscapes were single height map landscapes. The user selects which landscape they wish and are transported to a map room. Here the user can observe a small-scale map of the landscape they wish to interact with. They can move around the map room, but most importantly it allows the user to teleport to any position on the larger landscape by selecting any point on the map. The user can teleport to new locations and facing using the controller, but other locomotion methods could be added. Teleportation offers the lowest risk for VR nausea. For the initial application, reconstructions were used to provide focus and context to the landscape the user was visiting. The locations and visual style of the reconstructions were based upon available data from excavations and geophysical surveys. For example, the Broch itself is primarily guesswork, as it's not been excavated, but historical records and magnetometer surveys show the presence of this ditch and some kind of circular structure. The VALT application offers a series of tools for the archaeologist to engage within the landscape. One of these tools is the ability to toggle between different states of the reconstruction. In this example, you can see the Broch roof being adjusted between the typical 45-degree roof angle and a more domed approach, which seems to be more popular in recent times. For the proof of concept application, the inside of the Broch was not extensively modelled. While guesses could have been made about the features, it might have presented false information at this stage in the site investigation, and so ambiguity was key. One of the tools available to the user was the ability to alter the time of day. When starting the simulation, the time of day is set to 12 PM, and using this tool the user can add or subtract hours from this, which in turn affects the sun's position. While this might be useful on this particular site, it can actually be more helpful for other sites, as we shall see later. Another tool is the ability to place a flag or marker on the ground. This allows the user to literally flag an interesting feature. When the user returns to the map room, this position is also marked on the small-scale map, allowing an archaeologist to tally points of interest. Currently there's no way to output or add to this information, and it is one of the areas that subsequent versions of this software can improve on. The larger scale landscape was an experiment to see if more resolution of landscape but smaller area is desirable over lower resolution but larger area. In testing, it appears that users preferred larger landscapes, and even wanted distant landmarks visible, such as the distant mountains of Hoy in this Orcadian landscape. This was not done in the proof of concept application, mostly due to time restraints, but certainly seems to indicate the requirement for very large virtual landscapes. The Greek landscape used height data from the Asta shuttle missions, meaning it had an exceptionally low resolution of 30 meters per pixel. Despite this, the landscape still isn't big enough to see the ocean, which can be seen from the real site. This landscape was created to highlight what resolution of data is needed for a good representation. The surface materials were automatically applied via a procedural material and are based upon the angle of the surface. With more development time and resources, this could be refined to produce better results without manual intervention. The temple model is based upon physical remains, but the real site is currently under a large tent to protect it from the elements, which prevents exploration of its most unique feature. The temple features a side door, which is unusual. It has been hypothesized that this is to allow sunlight into a specific part of the temple at certain times of the year. Using the time tool, we can adjust this to experience this light flow. A version of this simulation has already been used by other archaeologists to further this theory. The VALT application offers a good starting point to expand into a powerful VR toolset for archaeologists. There are various areas that have been identified to improve on, but here are the highlights. Firstly, for archaeologists to use this system, there needs to be a much simpler system to import LiDAR data as a landscape. Ideally, there should be some kind of plug-in system or standalone application that can convert LiDAR data directly into a usable landscape or level for use within the VALT application. This would allow archaeologists to select landscape LiDAR files, select the type of landscape material and vegetation, and would produce a viewable landscape. A further system refining this while using the application could be devised to place reconstructed buildings and points of interest, much like a level designer. Secondly, there does need to be some form of output system. Currently the application is purely experiential, which presents problems in the reporting of any findings. Suggestions for improving this include an audio recording tool for recording observations for later reporting, a virtual camera to take screenshots for reporting, and a better method of adding markers which can include notes and can then be outputted into an image or database afterwards. Finally, there is the addition of multi-user support. With the current coronavirus-aware world, working remotely but together has become very important, and this tool could offer a way of communally examining sites of interest by multiple archaeologists. Sharing what is a very experiential method of examining data is also a good way of gathering consensus and other points of view on ideas and areas of interest. VALT requires further investment to make these improvements and to keep the application up to date as new innovations in software and hardware present themselves. If you wish to know more about the VALT application or wish to discuss any of these points, you can visit the VALT website here or email me at email@digger.net. Thank you.